going to go ahead and get started here. And I'm Cheryl Thompson, and I'm director of the Carrie McLain Museum. And I am so thrilled to have so many people come tonight. I was contacted by this man, Lawrence or Larry Rockhill, about, I don't know, a month and a half ago or something. And he asked if we'd be interested in some things that he had acquired from Aloysius Pikonganna. And you guys can correct me on my pronunciation because I know I don't say things right. But so we've got the items here, and I said, yes, absolutely, the museum would love to have these things. And he made arrangements to come up and bring them because, you know, they're so precious. He didn't want them getting lost in the mail, and he'd been here before, obviously, and so wanted to come and bring them. And we're very excited to share everything with you guys tonight.
From where?
He's living in New Salem, Oregon now, but he lived in Magadan for 2 years and did an student exchange program when the border was open. And his wife is from Magadan, and he might want to tell you all these things, but he was a teacher at Chemawa, and that's how he met Raymond Penatac. And Chemawa allowed some of their teachers to come up to the areas that the students were from. So he got to come up to Nome for a week in, 1969? 69, and that's when he met Aloysius Pikonganna, and that's when all the King Islanders still lived in East End. If, people who are new to Nome, there was an entire King Island village on the east end of town where, like, that park is now. And in 1974, the big flood just wiped it out. There was a landing barge that they used for a dock, and that came loose and just smashed into the houses. And so it's not there anymore, but that's where all the King Islanders mostly lived. So Aloysius and Larry got to be good friends in that week, and he obtained these things from Aloysius. So I guess that's my introduction, and whoever else would like to talk. Do you want to take over, Larry?
Yeah, sure. Okay, well, you already have a little bit of an introduction, but I think tonight we're here to honor the spirit of the great King Island leader, master ivory carver, and just wonderful person, Aloysius Pikonganna. And also all of the King Island elders that are, thank God, still with us. We're so pleased to have them, and they have knowledge that we can only hope that they will be able to leave before they have to go on. So without further ado, let me give you a little bit of a background of what happened. So I grew up in Southern California, and when I finished my degrees, I wanted to work for the Bureau of Indian Affairs. So I had a long childhood of being enthralled by native cultures, particularly the cowboys and Indians. And I was always on the side of the Indians and not the cowboys. And there was one person on the TV in those days that was also the same, and I think he had a big influence. So when I went to Chemawa, I had the good pleasure of teaching freshmen. Actually, not teaching, but I was the guidance counselor for the freshman students. And two of those I would like to mention tonight because they were very, very close to me, and they had a big influence on me too. They were both from Little Diamonds. They were Diamonds, and one was Edgar Iapana, who unfortunately is not with us now, and the other was Bobby Akinga. They were special boys. Not only were they were special as people, and they were also budding ivory and wood carvers. So I brought up some of their first carvings from 1968, and I hope to give them back to the families. I think Edgar's widow, Helen, is still alive, And so I'm hoping to be able to meet with her and give her, I don't know, I guess we said it someplace else, but one of his first carvings. So that led to that year becoming friends with another young man. He was a senior at that time, but somehow we just connected. And he was part of our family. He came over and spent time with my wife and our kids, and it was just such a pleasure. And his name, of course, was Raymond Penderpack. And we became friends then, continued the friendship afterwards for some, not so many years, but then, of course, we were heading in different directions. I was heading over to Russia, got deeply involved in the student exchange program between the University of Alaska and the University in Magadan. So then, during the time that I was here, that week, I spent it almost, except for one day, I flew out to Keller and Shishmaref. That was really very, well, everything was new to me. And I was just totally with eyes wide open. And so, but the rest of the time, I spent almost entirely with Aloysius Pikonganna. And he was very patient, and he knew that I was very much his student. No, I've often felt that my students were really, I was their student, because I was learning from them. I was learning their ways, what it meant to be a young person, a young Eskimo Inupiat person, or a Yupik person. And so over these years, I've never considered myself an expert, but I'm still a student. Right now, this week, I have the best teacher in the world. Raymond Penderpack is right here. And we spent a lot of late evenings talking about things. But Aloysius was my teacher at that time. And I spent a lot of time in the Kajgi down in Eastern. You know, it was sort of like a Quonset hut. And at times, I guess, earlier, the carvers could have been found carving ivory underneath a semi-upturned umiak. But now they had this Quonset hut, Kajgi. And so I was totally enamored with seeing these men, not necessarily where there were some old men, there were some relatively young men and some children that were in there. And the children, I think, is so important in Inupiat culture, because that is the way the kids learn, by observing. And then by doing simple things, and then maybe doing a little more intricate things. But I took several pictures of which I have no idea where they are, sad to say. But I spent a lot of time, and I remember seeing them. They always sat straight up with their legs out in front of them. I obviously thought, for me, that'd be a tough one to go right now. At 87, I don't know. You know, I could try it, but I'm not sure that it would work. And but they were carving with the hand tools. They weren't. There were very few, if any. I don't know that there were any electric drills and things like that, sanders. And you can see here is an example of some of the tools. I mean, I think you're probably mostly all familiar. You can see pictures of them around with the, mouthpiece. Well, that was an important part. But maybe the most interesting thing that Aloysius told me about was the use of baleen. I was somewhat familiar with baleen, being big part of the mouth of the big 60-foot, sometimes bowhead whale. So I said, Aloysius, I would really appreciate if you would be willing to share some of the important Eskimo Inupiat tools that you use to do your magnificent carvings. I'd like to take them back to the students so that they could have a little bit of something that's familiar in their home environment. Well, he was very generous, and you can see the results of his generosity today with this wonderful sealskin hunter's backpack, and the mouthpiece, the bow, and the drills that he used. And of particular interest and of particular rarity is the baleen fish line and the ivory hook, that the ivory hook is separated from it. But if you look closely, I'm sure you afterwards will be able to come up and see these things more closely. But the knots, the tiny, small knots that are tied into each piece of baleen are just amazing that people could do that. I mean, it's a lost art, I'm sure. And also, when you come up, take a look at the sealskin bag. For the women to do the sewing of this through that very tough sealskin and have each stitch equidistant from every other stitch through this. It's a work of art. So the week went by, and I really had misgivings about leaving. I had sort of fallen in love with Eskimo and Inupiat culture, and certainly with the people that were so welcoming to me during the time I was here. And that has continued for 55 years later. When I came back with Raymond Pentak, it was, and Sylvia, of course, it was as if the 55 years in between, they just, poof, they were gone. We just, the next day we came together, and we have really enjoyed being together again. But then I continued with the Bureau of Indian Affairs, and then I had the chance to go to Alaska. At Shinoa, I learned to very much be, I guess, closest to my Alaskan Native students. And so when I had the chance to go to Mount Edgecombe, I took it. And so I went to Mount Edgecombe, and I taught. I didn't teach, I did. I taught and was a counselor there for 10 years and enjoyed every minute of it. And then I thought, those were the years in the late 70s and the early 80s. And it was a time of Native preference. And I was always for Native preference. Our focus should have always been on our students, our Native students. And sometimes I think we missed it by a mile. And we didn't do them, the students, the way we should have. But anyway, those were the times of Native preference, and I thought, well, it's time to let somebody else, hopefully a Native person, come in and do what I've been doing. And I'm sure they can do it equally as well, probably better, because they know the students in a way that I could never know them. As I said, knowing the students was one thing that I wanted to focus on, because I was really the student, and they were my teachers, and I have continued that through these days. My separation from the BIA, I ended up initiating a program between the University of Alaska and Magadan Pedagogical Institute, where I joined the faculty of the Exceed program at UAF, and then was invited to come to the Pedagogical Institute in Magadan and teach English and American Studies for 2 years. So I took a sabbatical, went there, and found equally interesting the Russian students. They were so eager to learn, and of course, they were a bit misgiving. There were some misgivings there, because at that time, people thought, Russian people, many of them thought, that everything was good about the United States and everything was bad about the Soviet Union. Well, of course, I never went to tell them how bad the Soviet Union was and how great America was. I always tried to keep a balance, that we have many, many problems. Our racial prejudices, our focus on commercialism, et cetera, et cetera. And they were quick to point out they had wonderful benefits in terms of subsidized housing, subsidized foods, although when I went there we had food ration coupons, talonies, so we couldn't buy just anything or any amount, and even though we might have had a coupon, we didn't necessarily, they didn't necessarily have it in the store. So I thoroughly enjoyed my 2 years there, and then that's where I met my dear wife, Yelena, and she was doing genetics research at the time, and she wanted some help in terms of one of the translations of some friends, mutual friends that came from the University of Alaska, Fairbanks. So I met her one day and helped her with that, and said, gosh darn it, maybe we need at least one more day to see how this can come about, and we did. Well, 34 years later we did, and it's been a wonderful, marriage for me, a wonderful relationship. Our daughter just had a baby a little over a year ago, and so my wife, Yelena, is the happiest babushka in the world. She's with our daughter and granddaughter. So anyway, that's, I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have any questions about that. Either particularly Aloysius Pikonganna. I can't tell you what an influence that he has had on my life. It all started there, and of course it continued with friends like Raymond and Sylvia, and I still have a few other friends from those Shemala and Mount Edgecombe days. But out of sight is not out of mind as far as my relationship with Native people in Alaska.
Sure.
I guess just a second. I always say, once an Alaskan, always an Alaskan. So even though I'm temporarily out, my spirit, I used to say, my spirit will always fly on the wings of the snow geese whenever they come. And so anyway, I thank you all for coming. Again, if you have questions, yes, this.
Yeah, I thank you for educating yourself on the effects and.
Okay, I'm sorry. At 87, I have a lot of original parts, and sometimes they don't all work very well. So one of them is my hearing.
All right, I'll speak a little bit louder. Thank you for educating yourself about King Island and all the impacts, and I respect you for that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for all your education.
Well, thank you. You have been great as far as educators, and I'm still going. And I figure this is my love is a lifelong learning program with Native people in Alaska. Yes.
Do you know if there's going to be any workshops about some of the tools that's brought back?
Cheryl, do you get that?
She asked if there's going to be a workshop about the tools you brought back.
Oh, no, I don't know. We don't have anything planned at this point. I have to go back on Thursday. So unless, all I can say is I just hope that there's a tremendous snowstorm that no planes from landing for at least a few days. So I don't know if I can work that out.
We'll ask for the fog to roll in.
Yeah, right. A very thick fog, please.
Very thick. Just ground.
Anybody else?
would you,
Okay, well, all I can say is thank you for coming, enjoy, take a look.
I have a
Oh,
question.
yes, of course.
I am curious who that, as a young boy, that one, not spirit, but that one, you said there was someone that inspired you. I'm thinking it's someone from the movies or something. You were talking about cowboys and Indians, and how you always favored the Indians, but there was someone that inspired you. I'm
Well,
curious who that
yeah.
was.
Yeah, I could say there was also my scoutmaster. My dad died when I was 8, and so I was an only child. My mom raised me, and but my scoutmaster, I was good friends with his son, and this man was very much a storyteller, very much on telling tales about the Korean Indians that inhabited the desert around Palm Springs and things of that. And then I suppose that would be, one of the main. And when I got to school and I could take anthropology, I took a few anthropology courses at UAF when I was living here, and enjoyed them immensely. But most of all, it's been every time I'm interacting with Inupiat people or other Alaska natives, it just reinforces my interest and my love for the culture. So,
What kind of stories did Aloysius tell you?
well, 55 years ago is probably a little bit longer than I can really remember a particular tale. But I remember in general, some stories about being out on the Bering Sea, hunting walrus or ugruk, with a harpoon and with a rifle too. But mostly it was interesting because Aloysius knew the old days, the real old days, as far back as you could go. Raymond is also the same in that respect, and I'm sure that all these knowledgeable people here, elders, could say a lot about it. But those were fascinating to me, the dangers that they faced, and the dependency, the interdependency on the part of so many of the relationship between the men and the women. The men went out and experienced great danger on the high seas in a skin boat, often at times, I guess, with paddles instead of with an outboard motor. But they couldn't have done their job. They couldn't have been even hunters without the skills of the women in terms of skin sewing, of butchering, of food preparation, and all the skills that the family depended upon. There was a great interdependency there. And even in terms of the mucklucks, how are you going to go out if you don't have, on the ice and in the snow, if you don't have good footwear, and you don't have skin clothing is far more insulated than these down coats that you can buy at places like REI or Eddie Bowers or wherever. And so the hunter was really dependent on his wife's skills. And it was so important for these skills to be passed on. So the girls, how did they grow up? There was no home ec class. How do you learn how to cook if you can't go to a home ec class? Well, obviously lots of Inupiat girls learned how to cook on a seal oil lamp instead of an electric stove. So it's always amazed me of all the things that the Inupiat people were able to do without the things that so many of us white people can't seem to do without. And I always admired them for those skills. And I guess, also, again, in terms of being able to know, they didn't have AccuWeather.com that you could press a button on your cell phone and see what's going on. No, but they were able to determine quite accurately, not only weather, but even more amazing to me were directions. I mean, when you have white and you have very few landmarks, and yet they had built-in compasses, if you will, and were able to navigate over vast terrains without the modern compasses or whatever. So, yes. Anything else? Yes, Molly?
Do you know any preservations of, like symbolism designs, like tattoos, kuplok, or even, storytelling?
Okay, wait, can you help me with that?
Do you know any preservation of designs such as for tattoos
Oh,
or the parka trim?
I mean, I can only say in regards to tattoos, the people that I've known from Gamble and Sabunga, the women have beautiful facial tattoos. Now, lavrettes are not very common or not common at all anymore, and, you know, I can understand. I'm not sure I could handle poking a hole in my lower lip and inserting an ivory lavrette. But the facial tattoos are also sort of coming back amongst some of the St. Lawrence Islanders. But no, I don't know, there are works. If you look in the, well, probably UAF library, where you would find some things on that. Certainly illustrations with the tattoos. Okay?
I have a question.
Yes. Oh, okay, whoever, yeah.
I wondered, have you ever been out to King Island?
Oh, how I wish. No, my dream was because of Bobby and King and Edgar Iapana, when I came up here, I said, I've got to get out to Little Diamond. That's where I want to go. And unfortunately, I think I flew with one of the Fosters, and we went to Keller and Shishmaref, and I never made it out to Diamond. That was a big top of the bucket list. It probably still is. And I see it's a little more than I can afford to just drop in these days, flying with Jim Rowe, Barry Merritt. But Jim Rowe picked us up when I brought faculty from the Magadan here. That was really nice, and got to know him. And he's a special guy. He was doing a lot of good things to melt the ice curtain in those days in the Cold War. So, no, I think we're going to go to Keller tomorrow, and so I'm really looking forward to that. Back after all these years. Yes. Yes.
What's the difference between the King Island edition and Shishma edition?
King Island and what?
Shishma
And
edition.
Shish-
What's the difference between those two?
Oh, no, I couldn't really say, because I've never, I've just been to Shishmaref, and my memories, well, first of all, Shishmaref, sad to say, has had terrible erosion problems. You know, they've lost houses into the sea and had to, deal with this terrible global warming that has affected them. And I'm sure not only, I know, I lived in Barrow for a year, taught with native bilingual teachers, and they have also lost several dwellings that were right on the edge of the ocean. So, no, I can't really say any more than that. Yes?
When Aloysius sent you them items at, was it Shemai?
No, he gave
Jemai
it to me
school?
when I was here. That was sort of an interesting thing. He also gave me a bowhead whale vertebra with, the full vertebra. And so here I am. In those days, we were flying 727s, Alaska Airlines 727s. So here's this non-native guy that's got a Inupiat hunter's backpack draped over one shoulder, and in the other hand, he's getting on the plane with this bowhead whale vertebra. And there were some people that wondered, and that was okay. I was so pleased that I had the good fortune to share, that Aloysius would share these with me. But no, I carried them, and I wasn't about to trust these to anybody in a checked bag or something like that.
I guess I was under the impression that you took them to the school so that your students there would have a little bit of home
Yeah, absolutely.
there with them. So is that true?
Yes, that's
Okay,
right.
so the other question is, did you allow them students to, like, use the mouthpiece and the drill and while they were at school?
They were-
Or were they allowed to use any of the items?
Well, they were allowed to handle them always. I never put them into glass and things like that. No, and of course, the baleen fish line, there were no fish in.
Well, of course, but I guess mostly I was thinking of that
Yeah.
drill,
Yeah,
because maybe
right.
they,
They
the mouthpiece and
could've.
drill, maybe they brought some ivory with them, I don't know.
We were able to the BIA
Curiosity.
to get 19 tusks for the
Oh,
carving,
wow.
so we had a lot of ivory.
Okay.
And, so and then we got the tools, they selected the tools that they wanted, the files, the saws that they wanted, and the sandpaper they wanted, and everything like that. And, I think the carvings that they didn't require, the mouthpiece and the bow drills. So they could have, they
Yeah.
looked at them, they handled them, and,
Yeah.
that was pretty much it.
Awesome, thank you. Thank you for showing up.
Okay, yeah, yeah.
So are these going to be on display after tonight?
Well, I don't know about exactly when. I mean, we've been discussing this with Cheryl and Raymond in particular, and what we're really hoping for is that these pieces, these can be the foundation of an King Island Elders exhibition. We want to tell the story of the King Islanders. This is a story that hasn't really been told. There are books that have attempted and done a good job in telling different aspects of the King Islanders' lives and culture and that sort of thing. But I think eventually, we'll try to work with Cheryl and see what we can do to make a special King Islanders story exhibit. So that means these will be on display together and not separated, and God forbid, end up in a drawer. That's the last thing I think Aloysius would want to see, is that his wonderful, King Island items, ivory carving items would end up in a drawer. And so we're working, it may take some time and it may take some money, to get this done, but we're gonna work on it. So hopefully it can be done in stages. Maybe we don't have the full, complete, we haven't even discussed how many ideas we can come up with, but we're hoping to come up with ideas where there'll be a case that says, this is the King Island story. There'll be information boards that people can read, there'll be references where people can go to for further information from scholars, and there'll be pictures as well as an explanation of the artifacts that Aloysius shared with us all. So I think Aloysius, I hope he's looking down on us and is happy that, first of all, that there's so much interest on the part of you people here. I'm amazed to see such a large group, and I thank you all for coming, but that's our dream. So it doesn't happen overnight, you just can't add water and have instant displays, as Cheryl more than anybody knows. So we're hoping that main thing is that this is the foundation of the King Island story. Aloysius is the leader, and still the leader, and all of these gentlemen here have so much knowledge, and hopefully they will be a part of, sort of maybe a committee, or at least advisors and people that will contribute to the King Island story.
For the immediate future, I plan to keep everything together. We have a museum cart, so if someone wants to come see them, they'll be close by, like in the back room, but, so they don't just get handled, but you could come see them close up.
I think one of the ideas I'm thinking about is trying to get some, using that original and having them being made. We've got something here on hand that we don't have too much of anymore.
Right.
And if we were able to get some of these guys and replicate these for coming to other generations, that would, I think, be a good idea.
Right. Well, I think
Great idea.
the thing is, please share your ideas, share your thoughts, particularly with Cheryl and Raymond and the other people that are going to be involved. Because none of us have all the good ideas. We don't have a monopoly. So we're really looking forward to ideas coming from you, what you'd like to see. And again, I don't know if there are school programs, do school teachers bring their students here?
Usually the elementary, comes for just a day, a couple hour visit at the end of the school year. But we haven't done any, big like workshops together or anything like that,
Yeah.
so.
Anchorage Museum has, lots more money, lots more staff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And of course, we're always happy to have
Mhm.
volunteers that want to participate.
Oh, maybe you can get the word out that, our little museum needs some benefactors.
Yeah, that would be wonderful.
That'd be nice.
There are
You
some
need something in
corporations,
their estate for it.
there are some corporations in the area, and I would hope that they would see the importance of preserving the culture here. Everybody knows about the gold rush, and the dredges are out there, but not everybody knows about Aloysius Pikonganna, and it's a shame.
Yeah.
Hopefully, because the Inupiat people were here first.
And the King Island tribe.
And sometimes too long and too often, they take a back seat, and that's not right. So.
Thank you for recognizing that.
Okay. Oh, all right, here we go, yes.
Hi.
My hearing aid is.
Thank you so much
limited.
for coming to share this. I myself is a King Islander, born on King Island, and when you start saying, share your story.
Okay, I'm sorry, I missed most of it. Molly, do you know what she was saying? No?
She was thanking you so much for providing her voice and such.
Oh, okay.
Because King Island has a lot of history. Some of you don't know we're first off our island,
Yes.
so Nome is our home. But we know our history, we know our people, we know who are hunters. I use stories from Mom all the time. I remember Aloysius using those tools. I used to always go visit him growing up. They lived in Burnview House. He'd be sitting on the floor with his legs crossed and carving using those tools. And he used to nap me, you know how
Wow.
they used to. I remember him. He was a great carver. We have a lot of our history that, we shouldn't be forgotten. We live here. Nome is our home. And yes, we were here first. But I just want to thank you for bringing those back, and I hope it helps with education and, you know, with more stories of King Island, of our history. I just want to thank you so very much.
Well, yeah, it's been my privilege and my pleasure, but I think, your memories should be recorded. And I hope that someday.
We have one more thing that, Betsy brought in, and I don't think you know about it, Larry. But, I went to XYZ, of course, late as always, but I caught everyone on the bus that was going home, and I said, we have this thing going on tonight, and that you had brought these things from Aloysius Pikonganna, and Betsy, who was married to Vince, asked if she could bring Aloysius's crutch that he made. And so this was the crutch that Aloysius made and Vince saved, had up on their wall. So it's just pretty cool.
Very
Wow.
well.
So
Well,
Wow.
so you add that to the things here.
okay, yeah, okay, yes.
Thank you for bringing back the artifacts within the region. I hope you don't mind. I'm just a descendant of those who were born on King Island.
Uh-huh.
And I do appreciate our elders who have withheld a lot of historical changes
Mm-hmm.
throughout the years, and bringing back the artifacts preserved is really great. I would request in asking for the elders taking a picture with the items and sending to the community, the King Island Native community,
That's
an appreciation to the whole community.
Yes.
Because preserving that information and bringing it, you know, we have a lot of elders here,
Mm-hmm.
and they've endured a lot of changes
Well,
throughout
and
the years, especially with the historical trauma segregation. But
Mhm.
keeping together is ideal,
Yes.
so that they're here all together.
Well,
Maybe
please,
it's-
exercise your influence here, that's a very good idea. And your being of the next generation is
yeah.
even more important.
How's
That
your
you will
hand?
be able to
Still
continue, where we're going to have.
Want me to
the
fill this with
dog.
hot water?
So, yes,
It's
Okay.
ideally different for me since I wasn't raised on the island compared to our ancestors and my elders today who were raised there,
yeah, right,
and to endure, you know, remaining the strength.
but
Like,
you
it's-
have King Island blood in you,
As a descendant, yes, sir,
Yeah.
correct, second generation, so
Great.
it, I appreciate the generation who was raised there, and
Yes.
who had moved from there.
right.
Throughout the years since then,
Mhm.
I was just a child not knowing the impact cultural has taken
Mhm.
with the changes, with the move, and then recapturing and revitalizing
Mhm.
takes a lot of strength. And even with those remaining here, it's a very, for me and myself, a huge impact, like, on how it impacted Caroline. It's, you know,
Mhm.
some of us won't even speak of it, but I would like to see a picture or a letter with those elders who knew Aloysius in person and send it to the community.
Well, I don't
And
know,
thank
maybe,
you.
can we tonight ask, excuse me, the elders to stand behind the table and we can,
We can do that. Yeah,
That would be.
we can do that.
Everybody's here and it's not always gonna be, possible for so many to be at one place, so we'll hope that, we can do that if the elders would, please, not run out the door too fast. And we'll be able to get the photographers here to take pictures.
Certainly appreciate it, thank you.
Yeah, No, thank you. Any last questions?
Right here.
Oh, maybe I should be asking you. Okay, I guess, I don't know what time it is. It's been a great pleasure for me to be here with you all, and particularly to be here with these King Island elders. It's not very often that we all come together. Thank you very much for sharing your stories tonight. That was very, very moving. So, I just thank you all for coming very much, and we'll just hopefully continue to honor the spirit of Aloysius Pikonganna and all the other King Islanders and relatives that are here tonight. Okay, thank you. Bye now.
You love